Okay, hello. My name is Scott McCutcheon. I am with Sovereign Studios. Today I wanted to show you real quick in Unreal Engine how to build the lifts from Unreal Tournament. If you've ever played Unreal Tournament, they have this kind of game mechanic. It's a simple actor that they place in the level, and the great thing about it is that it's just really easy to use. You just place the actor in the level, set a few basic variables, and then you have this lift that can take you up, just like an elevator. Um, so real quick, I want to show you how it works, right? And I'll show you using our game, Ethereal Legends. There you go. So it goes up, and then after a minute, it goes down. That's how the lift works. That's like I said, that's something I built for Ethereal Legends. We're starting to build our level designs more vertically. I figured the lift could really help us, take you to the next level up. Makes it an easy mechanic for it. So I basically copied the same design that they used in Unreal Tournament. Unfortunately, when you go into Unreal Tournament and you look at the assets, like they've built a lot of their stuff in C++ and like I don't know. Either way, this is 100% in Blueprints, having it work. So um, let's see what we got, right? So first thing you want to do is you want to create a new actor. I've already created mine right here, BP Lift, but you can do whatever you want to. Go to add new, hit a new blueprint class, and then just make it of a basic actor. Once you open it, okay, we'll start by noticing that, okay, you have a scene component, right, up here in your components, and then you want to go ahead and you want to add a collision box. That's what you'll see right there, right? So you'll use this collision box to tell when your player has stepped onto the lift, right? So go ahead and add a component, scroll down, give it a box collision, right? Next thing you want to do is you want to add a mesh. Okay, so this will be the actual mesh that you'll use as the lift, what takes you up, okay? So pick a mesh, put it in there. I left mine at 0, 0, 0, scaled it, whatever I needed it at. Yours may be different. Either way, I just put a mesh. Once you got the mesh, you want at a minimum 2 pieces of audio. I went and found some of this stuff from the basic car physics game from the Unreal Editor. Either way, these 2 impact lands for the car seem to work out pretty well, but you can use whatever sounds you want. Either way, you want one for when the lift starts and another for when it gets to the top or ends, okay? And then you'll reverse them so that when the lift comes down, you play the start, and then when it hits the bottom, you play the end, right? So makes sense, right? And then the second thing you want is the next thing you want is what Epic's UT blueprint calls a top preview, okay? And this is basically so that when you place the actor in the level, your level designer can just drag it up and be like, well, I want the lift to stop here. And that's where the lift will stop, okay? So go ahead and add all that to your blueprint. At this point, you just have a basic scene component, nothing in it. I would set it to not visible. Don't auto-activate it, I guess. I don't know, whatever, it doesn't matter. Can't see that thing anyway in game. Either way, make sure your collision box is there Make sure your mesh is there. Make sure you got 2 pieces of audio. All right, and then on your audio, make sure you set them to not auto activate, because you don't want them just playing, whenever you start the level. And on your top preview, you also want to set your collision preset to no collision, because basically we're going to hide the top preview in game. You're never going to see it or interact with it, so no collision on that one. But you do want collision on the mesh, just not on the top preview. Okay. All right. So now that you've got all that, the next thing you're going to want to do is come here and create all of these variables, right? Just go ahead and go down the list. Well, I guess you can't see them because of how my screen is placed. Either way, okay. So whatever. We'll hop over here because you'll see them as we go. Let's start with the construction script. Okay. So as it constructs, what you're going to want to do is you're create a set relative scale component, or call this function on these components, right? The mesh and the top preview. You're going to want to create a new variable called mesh scale so that both of these meshes basically take the same shape. Go ahead and create the vector variable and set it to public. That way, you can kind of get this from the from inside the level editor. You can change this if you need to. That'll set the scale for everything. Remember that you're gonna want to, don't keep it 0, 0, 0. Set it to 1, 1, and then whatever it is you do. 0.02 was mine, thickness. So set its scale, and then what you're gonna want to do is you're gonna want to set the play rate of this particular timeline. Now you can't set this particular variable until you create the timeline. So let's hop over there real quick and I'll show you how to create the timeline. This is it. We'll come back to this, but to create a new timeline, just right click in here, type timeline, and then hit add timeline, right? And you'll create a new timeline. All you need to do, add a new float track to it, and then go from 0 to 1 over 1 second, right? That's all you got to do. Just create that little timeline, and then you'll be good to go. Once you've created the timeline, come back over here. You'll see where it's been added into this components list, lift move, and you'll be able to drag it out onto the board here. So set its play rate. You're going to want to divide 1 by whatever this lift time is. Lift time is just another variable. Go ahead and you'll set it in here. Didn't really work out so well for me with this window here, did it? I'll have to remember that. So set it to the lift. Just set a new float variable. Set it public so that again you can mess with it from the front end. Divide 1 by your lift time and set the new play rate. What that does is it will set the length right here. This variable, it'll set this length for how long the timeline will play. And basically what the other purpose of this variable, this will define how long it takes for the lift to go from the bottom to the top, right? So back over in the construction script, we want to set the relative location for this lift destination. So go ahead and create a new variable, set it public again, and set the top preview's location to that that vector. Okay. So that's the construction script. Now what you want to do is come over to the event graph. Hang in with me, and we'll be done here shortly. Okay, so event begin play. As soon as you start, right, what you want to do is you want to get the location of the mesh and get the location of the top preview. Okay. what that will do is it'll set the start location and the end location to these two variables. These are just created over here. They are not public, and you can that way you have your beginning and end stored at all times, right? Then you also want to set the visibility of the top preview to false. You obviously don't want people seeing the top preview. You just want to go to the top, so be sure to set that one false. Okay. The next flow in the chain is the overlap. Okay, so at this point you have this actor kind of hanging out there, right? And your character is going to come trotting over this, and he's going to fall right on top of this panel and inside of this collision box. Yeah, inside of the collision box. Once he gets inside this collision box, you call this event on component begin overlap. So highlight the box, and you can do add component on begin overlap, right, for this particular collision box. Cast to your pawn to make sure it's of your type. Whatever pawn you're using, that's where you're going to cast. In my case, the pawn that I'm always going to test, the character that I'm always looking at, since I'm in a single player game, obviously, it's always going to be the explore pawn that will ride the lift. It won't be anybody else. So cast for that. In a multiplayer game, you'll have to do some extra work to make sure that all the players are getting checked for the lift. Either way, I have another lift, or another variable. Lift is moving, right? This is just another bool to tell you whether or not the lift is moving. If it's false, right, this means that the character can now step up onto the lift. I want a small delay in there just to make sure that the lift doesn't start moving as soon as you step on the block. I want you to kind of step on it and wait for a second and then start moving. So I just set that at 1 second. After that 1 second, we're going to call lift start. Okay, and that comes down here. But before we do that, I want to make sure that eventually the lift will stop moving. So I've added a retriggered delay, which is, again, just a float variable that's set to public, that your level designer, when he places the lift, can set this variable as to how long it takes before you can retrigger the lift. Okay. Once that delay is over, you're going to set lift moving back to false. We'll come back to this section, these two nodes right here, a little bit later, because they're important, but they don't really make a lot of sense right now until we go through the rest. So I'll come back to that. Either way, so the idea being the character stops on top of the lift. You check to make sure it's the right character. If the lift is not moving, we're going to set it and start the cycle, right? So we'll wait 1 second to make sure that the character's, gotten his butt on the lift, and then we call lift start. And again, we'll come back to that. So here's lift start. Okay, so first thing you want to do is play some audio, right? So that's the start audio that you placed up here. In my case, I use these Impact Lands, again, from the Racer demo. So just play the audio. Lift starts, okay? And here's that timeline you created earlier. So what you want to do is you want to play from the start every time that this function gets called. So play it from the start. During its update phase, this is what you want to concern yourself with. So while it updates, every frame you want to set lift is moving to true, okay? And then you want to alert between the start location and the end location over the alpha provided by your timeline. That'll take it from start to end, right? Cool. And then obviously set your mesh and its world location using the output from this lerp. Relatively simple. So as this timeline plays, every update, it's just going to take it from beginning to end. Okay. You'll notice the timeline has a option for finished. So once the timeline completes, we're going to play the end audio. So again, I just used one from the racer demo. Play a little audio file for ending. Okay. And then we have one more variable that you need to create that they call wait at top time, and this is just the delay that we'll use for setting how long it takes, or how long the lift will wait at the top. Because you don't want it to just get to the top and then start coming back down. You want the player to have a second to get off the lift. So how long will that be? So create a new float variable, set it to public, and add that guy in there. Next thing you want to do is you want to check whether or not the lift is at the top. Instead of creating a bool or anything like that, you can just check to make sure that the timeline's lerp variable is at 1. If the timeline's lerp variable is at 1, obviously the lift is at the top, right? So if the lift is at the top, right, we do another branch, we check that to make sure it's equal to 1. If it is 1, we'll play the start audio again, and we call another function lift return. Lift return is just a custom event, right, that all it does is play reverse from end, and it will, which just means it will start at the end and play in reverse back to the beginning. All this does is take the lift back down. So simple enough, right? One more thing on your timeline is this lift time, right? And this is how long the lift takes. I think we went over this already, but either way, it's a float variable that's public, and you tag it in here to the timeline. So I think that about covers it. Make sure I didn't miss anything. I guess, yeah, no, you're good. So compile it. That retrigger delay. Just one more thing about that. So you kind of have to do some math to get the right number for this retrigger delay. And the idea being that, okay, so you have the lift time, and the level designer that goes in and places this actor can set the lift time, how long the lift takes, right? So in my case, for this particular actor, I set it to 3 seconds, right? So the lift will take 3 seconds to go up. That also means it will take 3 seconds to go down. If you add those together, that's 6 seconds. Okay. The other variable you have to look at is the wait at top time. So how long the level designer sets this variable to influences how long the lift will be moving. So the lift takes 3 seconds to go up. It also takes 3 seconds waiting at the top, and it takes another 3 seconds to go down. That's 9 seconds of total movement. So for the retrigger delay, you notice I set it to 10. So it's the full 9 seconds of movement and an extra second for it to just be on the ground before you can step back on the lift and retrigger it. I realize that's not the best route to go about it, because you have to do some manual math in your head for every lift that you place, but it seemed easier than what Unreal Tournament was doing at the time, mostly because without having to dig into the C++ code, I'm not sure exactly how they were doing it. But that seems to work for me, so it'll basically, as long as the lift is in movement, you can never trigger it again. And it seems to work out. So let me show you how we place this actor in a level so that a level designer can use it. Okay, so where did I put it? Okay, so there's one already, right? But let's go ahead and delete it, and then I'm just going to place a new one, right? So BP lift, you just drag it into the scene. Okay, mine's like really huge, so for this particular map I have to scale down super small. But either way, so there's the lift. Cool. Okay, just as it was. So you can rotate it, do your thing. you'll find over here, when you have the BPLift self connected, you'll see that you can now expose these variables are exposed. You don't have to dig into it. You can set the lift time, you can set the weighted top time, and the retrigger delay. You can also set the mesh scale, which I guess I probably could have done better, but that works too, as well as the lift destination. So in order to change the lift destination, right, all you have to do is do this. Say we want to go 300, you'll notice that the lift goes up. If you need to place it more, generically, I think you can also highlight the top preview, right, and then do like that. So once you do that, right, you're done. Yeah, maybe that's not the best idea. Yeah, try it. Do it in here. The lift destination is probably the best way to do it. Right, so when you hit play, let me know if you have any questions or need any help. Definitely go to ethereallegends.com, check out the game that we're building, yeah, have a good one.